Disney is in crisis yet again as Elon Musk declared war on the company and its CEO, Bob Iger, as the company joined an advertiser boycott of X.
I mentioned X, and we're going to see Elon Musk in a little bit. You stopped advertising on X.
We did. So if somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go yourself. Hey, Bob, if you're in the audience.
These problems are not just external though, as it's facing a tough battle with activist investor Nelson Peltz and his fund management group Trian, which fired back at Disney after they were denied board seats this week. Creatively, Disney is also facing problems as two of its box office movies, Wish and The Marvels, both absolutely flopped at the box office. And lost hundreds of millions of dollars, adding to further questions about Disney's very disappointing 2023 creative output. But Disney's share price has actually been doing relatively well after it rallied around 17% after its recent earnings, where it reported growing Disney Plus subscriber numbers again. So what's going on with Disney? Well, today let's explore whether all of the news is a positive or a negative for Disney shareholders, and I'll give you my thoughts on the stock. Let's start off with the Elon Musk controversy. So what exactly happened? Well, the New York Times held a book conference in which they invited many major CEOs, including Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, as well as Elon Musk. Around a month ago, Elon Musk made some tweets on X that were perceived as being anti-Semitic. That led to loads of different advertisers pulling out from the platform and boycotting it, including Disney. He's since gone on to clarify what he meant, apologize, and even do a tour of Israel to prove that he's not an anti-Semite. But the advertisers are still not coming back. So this is what Bob Iger had to say about Disney's boycott of X.
I have a lot of respect for Elon and what he's accomplished. Not just one business, but a few businesses. And we know Elon is larger than life in many respects, and that his name is very much tied to the companies he either has founded or he owns. And by him taking the position that he took in quite a public manner, we just felt that the association with that position and Elon Musk and X was not necessarily a positive one for us. And we decided we would pull our advertising. And we're allowed.
Well, Bob Iger here basically gives the textbook corporate speak answer. It's straight from business school. He effectively says, oh, Elon Musk is a great man, blah, 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 compliments him, and then goes on to say that he doesn't want Disney to be associated with tweets on that platform. And I personally think this is a really tenuous link, as I don't think that seeing an advert next to a tweet that you might not agree with means that the company agrees with every single tweet on the platform, and I think it's dangerous for free speech personally. However, I do recognize this is the current culture that we're living in, and I don't think Bob Iger necessarily has a responsibility to change this or even to be the first company that pulls out of the boycott. After all, a number of other major companies, including Apple, are also boycotting the platform. However, later on, Elon Musk was asked about Disney's boycott specifically, and he was extremely direct with his response about Disney and the boycott in general. This is what he said.
There was all of the criticism. There was advertisers leaving. We talked to Bob Iger
I hope
today.
they stop.
You hope?
Don't advertise.
You don't want them to advertise?
No.
What do you mean?
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go yourself.
But
Go yourself. The judge is the public.
and you think that the public is going to say that Disney is making a mistake,
Yes,
and they're going to boycott Disney?
they already are. I'm saying what I care about is the reality of goodness, not the perception of it. And what I see all over the place is people who care about looking good while doing evil.
Now, I have to agree with Elon here that there are a number of companies and people who want to look good whilst actually doing evil. And Disney is the king of this kind of hypocrisy, with it for example, having a lot of inclusivity and wokeness in its movies, whilst also doing the exact opposite when you examine them closer. For example, for Mulan, Disney actually shot the movie in Xinjiang next to thousands of detention camps for Uyghur Muslims, and it even went on to thank the province in its credits. It's also reduced the prominence of black characters and ethnic minorities in promotional activity in China, as well as censoring LGBT scenes in various different movies. So it doesn't really care about these things, just cares about its appearance. And Disney isn't the only company that's done this. For example, Nike uses sweatshop workers, fast fashion uses the same, and so on. Disney is also facing questions as to why it's advertising on other social media platforms that have as bad or even worse reputations than X, like TikTok, for example, which was nearly banned in the US. The fallout from the conference has been pretty huge, with a number of users on X calling for their followers to boycott Disney and cancel their Disney Plus subscription, and there has been some evidence this has actually been happening. I think it will be very interesting to see how this plays out, as other right-wing boycott campaigns this year have been very successful. Just look at Target with LGBT stuff, or even famously Bud Light, which got cancelled almost entirely earlier this year. Now, Bob Iger probably regrets going to this conference at all, but he did also give some interesting information about the board battle with Nelson Peltz and Trian Fund Management.
Can we talk about the activism? So he has now partnered with Ike Perlmutter, who used to work with you. You bought Marvel from him. What do you make of that? Do you think this is personal? Do you think that this is, what is this?
This is not a headline that I'm going to create right now.
Culturally, people are always trying to figure out, do you just let somebody on the board because maybe that shuts him up? Or if you let him on the board, it infects the whole thing? What do you think?
Here's what I think. The Disney board, if you look into a person, is a collection of very talented, very experienced people. There's a qualification level that is required to sit on the Disney board.
Nelson Peltz is a famous activist investor who does have a strong track record of buying up stakes in companies, getting board seats, and then changing the way that they're run and turning around their businesses. He's launched a campaign to do the same for Disney back in February when he tried to get a seat on the board. He ultimately failed or gave up, depending on your view, after Disney did implement some of the measures that he had advocated for. However, now by the end of the year, the stock price is down by nearly 20% since he last had his campaign, and he's decided to relaunch it, and this time with the support of Ike Perlmutter, a former board exec, and it's given him a total share control of around 2% of the company, which is pretty significant. Disney responded to Ike Perlmutter's involvement by saying that he has a long-standing grudge against Bob Iger and the board, and despite Bob Iger's conciliatory words at the New York conference, it's pretty clear that this is descending into a very dirty and prolonged fight. Iger also mentioned that the board has limited seats and they can't just keep inviting and adding anyone they want. But the reality is that Disney is actually adding 2 new executives to the board soon and putting it to a shareholder vote. It's become pretty clear from Peltz's letter to the board recently that they will be gunning for these seats as well. And so the fight will be very interesting to follow. Disney's stock performance over the last few years has been nothing short of abysmal. And the company really needs a new perspective and direction in order to turn it around entirely. Personally, I don't think that 2 new voices on the board, even though they are experienced, when they've been chosen by the Disney board, are going to be the ones to do that kind of a change. So personally, I do think that at least 1 seat should be granted to Peltz and Trian Fund Management, as they will provide a much needed voice of alternative reason and thoughts in a time of crisis for the company. At the New York conference, Elon Musk did state that customers already are boycotting Disney, and it's not hard to see why he might think that. When you just look at 2 of their latest releases, The Marvels and Wish, an animated movie. They both did extremely poorly at the box office and made huge losses. Now, Bob Iger did have something to say about why recent movies have flopped, as 2023 has been a very disappointing year for the company.
Well, The Marvels was shot during COVID. There wasn't as much supervision on the set, so to speak, where we have executives there really looking over what's being done day after day after day. And that was a result of mostly of COVID, but at the same time, we increased our output tremendously to feed the streaming platforms. Too much, by the way.
Mistake.
Definite mistake. Quality needs attention to deliver quality. Doesn't happen by accident. And quantity, in our case, diluted quality. And Marvel suffered greatly from that.
Now, personally, I think it's a bit of a cop-out to blame COVID for the reason why movies from Disney have been of poor quality. After all, there have been plenty of movies shot during COVID from other companies that have been great. I also think it's flawed logic to blame the lack of studio oversight as being the reason for movies' poor quality. I've heard that Disney already has problems with extensive oversight from the executive team for movies, and it's caused them to be extremely complex, require reshooting, and just drives the cost of the movies up hugely. I think the real problem is that they haven't picked the correct creative directors in the first place, and have also spent too long trying to pander to a certain segment of the audience without pleasing the general audience with a good story. Just watch this clip from South Park.
We were just discussing ideas of what to do with the new Prince Eric movie.
Put a ticket in, make her gay!
Yes, Miss Kennedy, some of the execs are just expressing that maybe...
Well, that maybe we should go a different route than we did with Indiana Jones.
Fuck Indiana Jones, put a ticket in, make her name it gay!
Now, Bob Iger has previously pledged to quiet the noise around the culture wars when it comes to Disney, but this controversy with Elon Musk is only going to push it in the other direction. You can clearly see that Disney is still a lightning rod for the culture wars, and things aren't going to change anytime soon. So all of the recent news around Disney adds further to its crisis, and I personally wouldn't recommend this stock to buy as an investment for the long term. They've also said that they're going to try to make Disney Plus profitable by the end of 2024. I don't see how that happens. So those are my thoughts on Disney and the recent news. Please let me know if you agree or disagree. I realize this is a controversial one, so let me know in the comments below.